Dear Dad, I've always voted Republican, like you taught me. You've never steered me wrong. But now, Roe v. Wade has been overturned. And in states across the country, including ours, they're banning abortion. There have been 65,000 pregnancies resulting from rape and incest in states with no exceptions. No exceptions? That means if some psycho was dead set on having a baby with me, he literally could. Dad, that scares me. It really scares me. What the hell is happening? And if Trump and the MAGA Republicans win in November, they will pass a national abortion ban. So I'm sorry, Dad, but I'm voting for Joe Biden and the Democrats, up and down the ballot. I know you understand. And I also know that if you were here, you would too. Because you've always done everything to protect me. And I have to protect myself. I can't.
But let's start in the beginning. There are 3 Supreme Judges that got the mess that we're now in started.
And number one, legal analysis correct. They were deeply skeptical. My guess is they're going to throw this out based on standing when you have people like Gorsuch saying things like, this is a small lawsuit with big implications. Elena Kagan said it best when she said, who's the person? Where's the harm? But let's put that aside. These are the Trump-appointed justices, a number of them, that were the ones that got us into this mess in the first place by overturning Roe v. Wade. And this is a natural outcome. They said they wanted to give it back to the states. Well, guess what? It's coming right back to this court. And now you have a situation where challenges are being made to the FDA's authority, which, if they went that way, would not only mean about mifepristone, an abortion drug used by over 60% of women seeking abortions, but would also apply to things like birth control. If you can just have a group of random doctors come in and say, hey, this is not inconsistent with our beliefs to that, or HIV drugs or other things.
And if you think it's political now, it's about to get a whole lot more political. Donald J. Trump has plans.
It was his Supreme Court justices, after all, that overturned Roe v. Wade, which was the biggest win for the pro-life movement in 50 years. Now, he has also said that when he is president again, he'll bring both sides to the negotiating table to come up with a solution federally.
This puritanical law that was designed to ban birth control, designed to ban abortion, designed to ban feminist literature in the mail, that law is still on the books, and that it effectively imposes a federal ban on medication abortion and perhaps all abortions, procedural and medical, throughout the 50 states. That is a sweeping argument. It requires, I think, a rather exaggerated reading of the text, but it's one that the Heritage Foundation is currently making. It's one that Jonathan Mitchell, one of Trump's top lawyers, is currently making. And it's one that a lot of anti-abortion groups are urging Trump to invoke if he is elected on day one, to issue an executive order on January 20th, 2025, saying, under the Comstock Act, I have the authority to ban all abortions nationwide, and I am going to do it.
And Senator Elizabeth Warren is clear in her mind about the march that she sees Donald J. Trump wanting to take America on if he's elected as president, and it's nothing to do with what's in front of the Supreme Court at the moment.
I never had a problem with this issue. And what we did is we were able, with the cancellation of Roe v. Wade, because you also have to win elections. Sid, you have to win. I tell people, some people say, they have a very hard line. I say, here's the problem. You have to win elections. And otherwise, you'll be right back where you started. And if you don't win the elections, you're going to end up being back where you started on this issue. So I think that
you might have missed this news. Today, Donald Trump's Supreme Court is hearing another abortion case, this time on medication abortion, which is about half of all abortions in the United States. Here's what's going on. After Donald Trump stacked the Supreme Court with justices handpicked to overturn Roe versus Wade, voters across the country fought back against this right-wing effort to ban abortion. State after state has voted to protect access to abortion, so the right-wing extremists have gone back to their extremist judges in the courts. Now, judges appointed by Donald Trump are trying to say that they know better than the scientific experts at the FDA.
The Vice President and I are doing everything to protect access to reproductive health care and safeguard patient safety. Well, already more than a dozen states are enforcing extreme abortion bans. Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it.
Well, I did something that nobody thought was possible. I got rid of Roe v. Wade.
What about Donald Trump personally? Has he ever been involved in a termination with anybody that he's been involved with? Well, he dodges that question on quite a few times. That rumors are abound that he may have paid up to 8 sexual partners to obtain abortions and sign NDAs. They've circulated for years, in effect, that the US president has paid off multiple partners to undergo abortions after he impregnated them. And then obviously non-disclosures, not allowed to talk about them. For 2 women, Stormy Daniels and Carol McDougal, publicly asserted that they were paid hush money to keep quiet about their sexual encounters with Trump. Both women alleged that Trump eschewed the use of condoms during the sexual encounters they had with him in 2006. And as I said, during the 2016 interview, Trump answered the question about whether he had been involved with anyone who had an abortion by dodging an answer. His actual answer to the question was, this is how it went. Given Trump's draconian comment about sending women back to back alleys, the journalist said to him, when he was a swinging bachelor in Manhattan, was he ever involved with anyone who had an abortion? So he replied, that's an interesting question. So what's your next question?
People are underestimating women. People are underestimating how angry women are. People are underestimating how much women, particularly in a place like Michigan, mobilized and fought to codify Roe as a constitutional right in our state. And there's no way we're going backwards on that. So I think we always look for, who do you love as a candidate instead of the binary choice of, at the end of the day, when it comes down to my personal freedom and what I want moving forward, that's the person who's going to get it done. Final word, yeah.
So you do PAPs, you do breast cancer screening,
STI testing and treatment,
so fibroids, everything, spectrum. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, all of it.
This is about health care and access to health care.
Yeah.
Period. You're not alone. There are people around the country who are looking to your work for inspiration. So thank you. Thank you.
Regardless of your gender or your health care need, I think we should all expect, and certainly we all desire, that you would be treated with dignity. Walking through this clinic, that's what I saw. Are people who have dedicated their lives to the profession of providing health care in a safe place that gives people dignity. And I think we should all want that for each other.
But just to be clear, Dr. Francis, I mean, you have never had to go to the emergency room to do this. You've never been required to perform an abortion for someone who had complications from taking this, right?
So I have actually taken care of women in our emergency room who have come in with complications and had to do procedures to finish, removing the contents of their pregnancy from their uterus. But, again, it's the FDA's actions in removing these safeguards that would give women an in-person visit. I have been brought down to the emergency room to complete the process that was started by these abortion drugs. And again, this is happening more and more frequently because women are not even receiving in-person medical care prior to receiving these high-risk drugs because of the FDA's decisions.
They are attacking your right to the medication that conducts an abortion. We are going to have a massive Supreme Court decision in June or July on a drug called mifepristone. 50% of all abortions are conducted with mifepristone. And the Supreme Court is taking up the case about whether the FDA had the right to authorize that drug. That is going in front of our Supreme Court, and we do not know which way it's going to go. So suddenly, even in a state like Michigan, where we did our job and enshrined Roe in our Constitution, it may be that we can't get the drugs to give them to women who need them, who have been raped, who are the victim of incest, who have got a medical emergency. This is now affecting blue states, right? California, New York. If you can't get your hold on the drug, then how do you have access to an abortion? And by the way, if that succeeds in the Supreme Court and they do say the FDA had no right to authorize mifepristone, the next case will be the other drug that they use. It'll be the first time in history that a judge overturns what the FDA decides on any drug. And after that, what about the morning after pill? What about birth control? What about all the other drugs that affect reproduction in some form or fashion?
New York State is a safe harbor. This is what I announced right after the Dobbs decision. I announced $35 million to beef up the services here in New York, knowing that we'd be the place for freedom refugees. I mean, these are women seeking freedom over their own body. And so we're going to continue supporting them. But as I mentioned, it's one thing to provide abortion services, but if they outlaw the distribution of mifepristone as a result of the Supreme Court decision, which we'll hear about in June, if they go that far, then what options do I have? I have 150,000 doses stockpiled, but it should not come to this. And we are becoming now a state of haves and have-nots. Some states have freedom, some do not, based on your governor. But if this Supreme Court listens to this judge in Amarillo, Texas, of all places, to dictate to all of us that our freedoms that we fought for decades and decades are gone, I'm going to tell you this. Don't underestimate the rage of women in this country. They will march. They will take to the streets. They will protest. And there will be electoral consequences because Donald Trump appointed 243 federal judges, of which one of them this judge in Texas was, and the Supreme Court. There will be a rebellion.
What do we do about abortion pills? What do we do about...
I don't think abortion pills should be legal.
You use the word electability, and I think that that's sort of central to this issue. You know, it's been a thorn in the Republican side since 2022. It's really difficult. It's a difficult sell in suburban Philadelphia specifically. Not only any sort of restrictions, but especially the more restrictive ones, like a complete elective abortion ban or a 6-week abortion ban. But personally, I believe there are people in suburban Philadelphia, women who might be on board with a 15-week ban or, you know, somewhere less than what we have right now. But this year is not the year, I don't think, that Republicans ought to be pushing that if they want to be electable.
Would you sign a federal protection to protect the rights that were in the Roe precedent if you were president?
I believe that a decision to abort a child should be up to the women during the first 3 months of life.
So you would cap it at 15 weeks?
Yes.
Really, there's three things going on here. It's principle, it's politics, and it's profit. The politics of this, we got an election coming up, you know, and everybody's worried about what the polls say. They need to worry about what their conscience says. They're worried. This is about profit. This is about a predatory industry that preys upon young girls. And they're allowing a medical procedure to occur that is, at least one of the individuals that receives this medicine will die, and it could possibly lead to the death of 2. This is just a complete farce, and everybody knows what's going on with this. This White House should be ashamed, and we need to clean this up. So thank y'all.
Women across this country are concerned and scared, and they don't know what is the future for their reproductive rights. And this was one step in showing that Kansas legislature cares about women who have trouble getting pregnant, and that we stand behind them and we support their rights.
2 things in there, mifepristone and misoprostol.
And these are the abortion pills, right?